In my last video, I shared my first impressions of The War Within after hitting level 76 in the expansion. I spent a bit of time talking about the storytelling up to that point. I talked about the gameplay that I had gotten to experience. I also offered a little bit of criticism to Blizzard with how they handled certain things like hero talents and stuff. If you guys want to check out that video after this one, I'll put it on the end screen. However, I have hit level 80 since that time. I have been grinding out the dungeons, getting new gear, doing more delves and stuff. And so now that I've begun to sample the end game a little bit, I wanted to share with you all my thoughts on The War Within so far, without repeating everything that I said in the previous video. We're going to talk about some new things today. So I'm going to talk about the story now that I've completed it. I do want to talk about the gameplay now that I've gotten to sample even the end game. And of course, I'll offer some criticism here and there to Blizzard to try to make the expansion even better going forward, or, the next expansion as good as it can be. Of course, shouting out Zygor, the channel's sponsor. It is updated for The War Within. If you're looking for an awesome add-on for leveling faster, getting more gold, getting those achievements, mounts, pets, whatever you want, Zygor is World of Warcraft's ultimate add-on, and they are linked down below in the description. So now let's talk about the story, shall we? The good and the bad. In the last video, I talked about how I felt that the War Within storytelling was very much on point. And even after hitting level 80, after going through Hollowfall and the Nerubian Kingdom and stuff, I have to stand by that. The storytelling in this expansion is definitely on point. The characters were very well fleshed out. I liked the surprises throughout this expansion, such as the death of a certain someone in the very beginning. Those little things like that, like, holy crap, like there were some good moments in the storytelling, some fantastic moments, in fact. Even in Azkahet, the Nerubian zone, meeting up with these spiders that are in rebellion against the current monarchy that's ruling over the zone and the kingdom that's been corrupted by Xalatath as she's infusing the Nerubians with void magic and stuff. I mean, I thought that was really cool. It was a nice surprise. I wasn't exactly expecting to befriend a bunch of spiders in that zone and getting to experience an entire faction of spider people. So that was a very nice surprise from a storytelling perspective. I also really enjoyed the little creative things like, using pheromones and stuff, the changing light in Hollowfall. Like, there was a lot of that visual storytelling and those little things that were really cool. I'll say too that Xalatath as a villain, although if you weren't playing a Shadow Priest back in Legion, and if you didn't do those optional quests in Battle for Azeroth to really learn who Xalatath was, you might have went into this expansion a little bit like who the heck is this woman? Maybe I've heard of her, but I don't really know who this lady is. But I feel like the expansion did really good at establishing her as a villain. And something that I really appreciated in Xalatath's story is that she is a manipulator. And sometimes in video games and in fantasy stories and just, whatever, you've got these like really poorly written, like manipulating characters where it's just like, hey, do what I say and I'll give you power. Hey, do what I say and I'll give you money or something. And there's no like test of morality. There's no like, maybe like I shouldn't do that because, I understand that power will corrupt. I understand that money can just lead to greed. And maybe that's not something that, my wife and children would appreciate or something if I sold my soul to the devil for $1 million. You don't really see that. But with Xalatath in The War Within, at least, from what I experienced, it seemed that she was always playing at a problem that like the people she was trying to manipulate were trying to fix, and she was offering a solution. For example, the Nerubian Kingdom is in decline, and the current queen, she's not really doing enough, although she is beloved by her people. And Xalatath is like, hey, that's great, but you need new monarchy, you need new leadership at this point. Like, your people are dying, and it's like, hey, what's the right thing to do? Dispose of the monarch and save the people, or let things continue as is and pray and hope that things will be okay tomorrow? So things like that. In Hollowfall, Xalatath is playing on the Arathi, saying, hey, you've been down here for a long time fighting against like these forces of shadow and stuff, and the light isn't fixing anything. It's just back and forth, the same thing left and right. Don't you want like an end to this? The end of the struggles, the constantly having to dig deep and find faith despite despair? In the Earthen zones, Xalatath is acknowledging to the dwarves that the Earthen, that like, hey, that they're a dwindling and dying out race of people because their machine that activates more Earthen is broken. And she's offering to them, hey, here's a way that your people can not only like come back from the brink of extinction, but actually become more powerful than they were before and live in this sort of glorious paradise empire or whatever that the Titans promised, instead of like all this crap that you've been dealing with, whatever. So like Xalatath was acknowledging actual problems that these various factions were facing, and she was preying on the despair and the doubt and the faithlessness and the concerns and the lack of hope. And I really liked that. Like, she was actually displaying what evil does and like what it preys on. You know, I'm gonna geek out about Lord of the Rings for a second here, but you know, we've got someone like Boromir who he's afraid that Gondor is going to fall. You know, he's got that concupiscence that's drawing him towards, you know, that feeling of despair, that feeling of hopelessness, and the ring detects that and plays on his mind to the point that he's even willing to try to kill Frodo and steal the ring. And this is kind of like how Xalatath is. Nerubians, your empire is on decline, you know, hope is dwindling, but you know, I can offer a new way. The storytelling I thought was very solid. I really liked it. I will say one thing, because it is popping up in my comment section. It is popping up like here, there, and everywhere across the internet. This is a negative, and it's something I don't want to spend too much time talking about. A lot of people that I don't even think are actually playing The War Within have been criticizing characters like Farron. She is the one-armed lady that, like, you know, Anduin like becomes good friends with, and she kind of helps him like rekindle his lost hope in the light and stuff. You know, people have been criticizing like, you know, that as well, like her character as being like this disabled black woman, you know, who saves Anduin, who's supposed to be the king of Stormwind and stuff. I actually completely disagree with that entirely. Like, I don't think that was a problem in the slightest, and I'll tell you why. Just because Farron was a very well-written character, because, you know, when you, like, I thought Blizzard was just going to play the whole, like, look, she has one arm, but she's like super powerful, can like take down an entire army on her own. But no, they didn't do that. You know, Farron is a character who she, in the story, acknowledges that, you know, she has a limitation. She acknowledges that she has a handicap, and, you know, she acknowledges that she's been treated differently because of it. But she doesn't let that get her down. She doesn't let that, you know, she doesn't let despair into her heart because of that. And instead, she chooses hope, and she chooses faith, and she chooses the light. And this is why it was such a perfect character for Anduin to, you know, interact with, and for him to meet, because, you know, he is a character who has lost his faith. He does not believe in himself anymore. He just carries himself in shame. So I actually thought that those two characters were really well put together, like, certainly so. I did think that Blizzard tried to make her a little too likable, though, in some areas. Like, there's a quest where you have to go and meet her, and she's reading books to orphans. And it's like, okay, come on, Blizzard. Like, I know you're trying to make us like your new character, but come on. But ending this section on a very positive note, I'm just going to talk about Hollowfall for a second. You've probably heard it from everybody that Hollowfall is an incredible zone. The way that it looks, the way that it works, the quests there and stuff. Hollowfall is definitely up there in terms of one of Blizzard's best zones that they've ever designed. Granted, I think, you know, the War Within, the whole verticality of it all has been fantastic. So Hollowfall's great, and, you know, everyone's having a good time playing in there. The zone is just even like so memorable in the fact that, like, what's the name? Belladar, like the big crystal, you know, changes from night to day and stuff. But the only thing is, I don't think in the storytelling there was ever a quest in the main story that explained what Belladar was. And if there was, I just don't remember. I'm gonna have to go to Wowpedia and like look that up. Like, what is this Belladar thing? Where did it come from? So I'm gonna have to like look that up again, because maybe I just forgot, you know, playing the game, you know, hours on end, you know, it's kind of like, ugh, you know, your brain turns off slightly sometimes. But yeah, Belladar was great. And also Xalatath's feet. We got this epic close-up shot of Xalatath's feet. So for all of you weird people out there, like, I mean, I guess that's cool from a story perspective. Let's talk about gameplay. So if you played Dragonflight, you pretty much know what to expect with this expansion. Dragonflight was a lot of fun at launch. The questing, all the things to discover, all the places to go, flying around on your dragon mount, doing dragon flying. And of course, the War Within is very similar. Although there have been, of course, some criticisms, you know, with the gameplay. I criticized heroic talents a little bit in the previous video, just in the fact there wasn't really like a quest line or anything to unlock them. It's just suddenly your character just magically has awakened to new heroic knowledge. And I wish there was like maybe a little quest line to kind of bring heroic talents into your character's lore, you know, of how they got, you know, how did they suddenly become so empowered. But I will say that things like, you know, professions, like in Dragonflight, those are especially a ton of fun to level, especially as you find secret items around the world that increase your crafting knowledge. You know, I actually got to level 80 mostly just flying around, doing professions, doing the main story quests, and just doing dungeons along the way. And I had a blast. The best part is too, like, I'm an altaholic. I love leveling up multiple characters in WoW, and there are so many side quests in, you know, War Within outside of the main storyline that are just, you know, there's so many. Like, it was insane, especially in zones like Hollowfall and stuff. Like, goodness gracious. So, you know, being able to go through all this again and not have to do the same crap over and over, I think it's going to be an awesome experience. In regards to delves, because I know a lot of people are probably curious about that, dude, like, you know, I admit that when I was leveling up initially, I kind of skipped over delves. Like, I did I did 2 right in the beginning, and they were okay, but I was just like, you know, like, whatever. Like, I'm just going to level up standard, focus on the story and whatnot. But once I hit level 80, I started doing delves more. I was flying around, going into this delve, this one, you know, doing tier 3, tier 4, you know, getting some gear, leveling up Brand Bronzebeard. And I will say that, man, like, delves, like, you know, in the beginning, they're kind of simple and a little like, but like, once you like really, you know, start getting into like the higher tiers and stuff, and you start like unlocking all these crazy things that are happening in the delves to make them harder and harder. I mean, dude, it was a lot of fun. Like, delves were genuinely surprising me at just how enjoyable they were at max level. And I love the variety in the delves as well. Like, you know, it's not just doing the same thing over and over, same environment like Torghast. Like, it's a big variety of delves that you can go to, from, you know, underground mines. There's one delve where you're completely underwater. There's some where you're like in the void and stuff. Like, it's really cool, man. Now, I will say that there have been some criticisms popping up here and there. One thing that people have been pointing out is in War Within, you're a little bit overpowered. I mean, you can kind of pull like for those of you that aren't playing War Within, I mean, dude, like, once you start getting your heroic talents, I mean, I'm playing a Frost Death Knight, and, you know, I've got, you know, my friends playing a Blood Death Knight, and, you know, I've seen this comment popping up a lot where you can pull like 12 to 15 mobs and you're fine. Like, you just cleave through these guys. Like, it's no big deal. Like, even elite mobs, like on Nixxiom, like, I was level like 79 fighting elites in Hollowfall. I was pulling like 3 at a time, and I was able to fight them. And so, like, you're like really powerful in the War Within, like almost to the point, like a little too powerful. Like, I mean, I can understand, you know, for like that heroic vibe and maybe having us, you know, pull like, you know, 4 or 5 mobs, something like that. I know this isn't, you know, Blizzard doesn't have that classic mentality anymore, like, you know, 1 mob at a time, you know, 1 tiger at a time. It's like, no, we got to pull the tiger and we got to pull 5 cubs, you know, to make you feel extra heroic. You know what I mean? And I understand that that's Blizzard's modern mentality, but I think that things are a little too ridiculous. I mean, even in some of the dungeons that I've done, dude, like, you have tanks pulling like half the dungeon, and then we just AoE down everything, and people just hit max level. So this is a little ridiculous. I think that we're a little, kind of a lot, you know, like pretty overtuned. Who knows? Maybe Blizzard rolled out a patch, you know, later or earlier today. You know, I haven't played WoW yet today, but maybe I missed it. So, you know, forgive me if this criticism's coming a little late. But yeah, I think that the world should feel a little bit more dangerous and feel a little bit more realistic. Like, I understand that I'm the champion of Azeroth, but, you know, I mean, I want to feel like the enemies that I'm fighting are at least somewhat of a threat. You know what I mean? So I don't know, or maybe I'm just so good at World of Warcraft that I can fight 15 mobs at the same time and it's no big deal. But I don't think that's what it is. Okay, I am bad at every game. That's why I've got the bad at every game shirt over on the merch store. I just came up with a plug for that t-shirt completely off the top of my head. And that was pretty good. I'm pretty proud of myself there. But seriously, go get a bad at every game shirt. Anyway, here are my conclusions. I really love how I was able to get to max level, mostly just through story missions and doing dungeons and stuff and doing like the occasional delve. I really love the fact that there is just so much still left to do in the War Within in regards to questing for alts and stuff. That way it's, you know, it's not just doing the same crap over and over. I think that's incredible. And the fact that I haven't even done all the delves yet or all the dungeons yet, even though I've certainly done quite a few, like, I really enjoy that as well. There's a lot of content in this expansion at launch, and that is fantastic. Delves are a breath of fresh air. I love leveling up Brand Bronzebeard. I love having that choice to be able to go and do delves if I'm not feeling like being in a group with a bunch of people and being called a scrub. Like, that's cool. I'm really looking forward to the first raid, and I'll just say that I feel that War Within is a very solid expansion so far. But the key word is so far. I mean, every expansion is good and awesome and hype in the beginning. I mean, I'm in the hype phase. You guys are in the hype phase. I'll be sure to, you know, criticize the expansion as it continues. I'll be sure to make videos talking about both the good and the bad of what Blizzard's doing with the War Within. And yeah, man, so here's to the first raid. Good luck to those of you guys that are still trying to get to level 80. Those of you guys that are at max level, you know, hey man, have fun in your mythics, in your heroics, in your delves. But that's it. Those are my thoughts on the War Within, and thank you for watching.